Welcome back, and in this video you're going to hear some crazy stories regarding contacting ETs and how you can actually contact them yourself using similar methods.
Robert, the big thing is control, power and control. If the truth were to come out in the new reality of our new technology that we have, what we have accomplished, it'd blow the hell out of the oil industry. And if that were to happen, the world economy would collapse, you see. So that information has got to be dribbled out in little tiny bits and pieces. The fact that if we were to admit to the world that we have anti-gravity technology and we have hyperluminal flight, we can go to the stars and we've been there, all the rest of this gobbledygook becomes meaningless, you see.
Listen closely to Dr. Greer as he explains the steps he takes to contact extraterrestrials every time.
Number one, we train people in a meditation technique, it is Vedic, to be able to go into a deep level of the unbounded mind. From there, we teach them a Vedic approach from the Sanskrit to remote view distant places. Once there is a lock-on and seen an extraterrestrial vehicle, then we turn it into what we call a coherent thought sequencing, where we then connect to their people or their communication system, and then we use our own coherent thought sequencing, like a laser, to show them our exact location. For example, if we remote viewed and locked onto a craft that was say underneath a mountain here, we would show them where we are in this hall. But if they were way out in deep space, we would show them our galaxy, and then we would show them our solar system, which is on one of the outer spiral arms of the Milky Way galaxy. And then we would zoom into our solar system, and then we would zoom into the third planet from the sun, the Earth, and then we would zoom into Europe, and to the Iberian Peninsula, and then into Spain, and then into Barcelona, and then into Sitges, and then bam, zap.
Why don't they come to New York?
Right, so they do come to New York. There's a mass phenomenon that has been going on since the beginning of recorded human history, where these things engage human beings on multitudes of levels, from lights in the skies, which is the most famous part, to close encounters. So my argument is they have made themselves clearly available. You know, they haven't come on your show yet, Larry, but let's get that to happen.
Half of Americans believe in UFOs, right?
That's what I hear.
And that's based on what?
I mean, for me, it was 1989 and Bob Lazar telling his story. That's what weaponized my curiosity about it.
Have you ever seen one?
I have never seen something that I can definitively say is a flying saucer. I have seen incredible light shows in the sky.
I didn't believe this. I was listening to James Gilliland, I believe it was a couple weeks ago, and he was saying on there was actually a law against making contact with ETs. I was like, no way. I'm going to look this up. Here it is. The Extraterrestrial Exposure Law of 1969. On July 1969, a United States law was passed called the Extraterrestrial Exposure Law that made it illegal for the public to come into contact with extraterrestrials or their vehicles. That is Title 14, Section 1211 of the Code of Federal Regulations. Anyone found guilty of such contact could face up to 1 year imprisonment as well as a fine of $5,000. Also, any individual who has been exposed could be quarantined under armed guards by the NASA administrator without hearing.
And it's when you have a group of people doing this, we have never done it where we have not had contact. I will say this in some form. So that's the first. Number two, because our minds may not be as accurate, we have some electronic signals that were recorded in the crop circles. And also, when we made contact at Mount Shasta, there was a tone that came through that was extraterrestrial. And actually, everyone in the group, about 30, 40 people, from the sound could see the form of the craft. It's sort of the Vedic concept of name and form, where the vibratory resonance forms the shape. But we recorded it on a little tape recorder, and so we now have processed that, and we're sending that out into space over radio signals from our site. And the third are lasers. We have rather high-powered lasers that you're not supposed to have. and we send those up as a vector point, because the one that I use will go 100 miles out into space. So we use all three of those things simultaneously.